All right, so we have about 2 more weeks of this class. And so, next week will be our last class together. Much of the information that I've posted to you will be open all the way through the end of the semester, which will extend beyond the next couple of weeks. Hopefully you had a chance to view last week's video or recorded lecture on financial planning. And then at the same time, also, there's the other video on the senior capstone design. If you have questions regarding the senior capstone design year-long course, let me know. I can forward that on to Dr. Tom Houston or get some answers to you before the end of next week. I will also be pushing out a survey on an evaluation of this course and the topics presented in this course. I'd like your feedback as we enhance this opportunity for students, not only in this environment, but as we go back to in-person teaching, hopefully next fall, next spring, that we could enhance this course even more and improve upon it. So today we're focused on the idea of salary negotiation. This is probably one of the topics that was actually brought up 2 years ago by the students in this class. The other part to it too is that when we think about salary negotiation, it is a skill that is, I'll be honest, practiced over and over and over. You can never get it perfect. You can never, you always are dealing with various issues that come about with a salary negotiation or a salary package or compensation offer. But at the end of the day, one of the things to keep in mind when we think about salaries and your compensation when you go into a permanent full-time job after graduation is that it's not all about the money, right? When we think about your compensation, how much you're getting paid, more about that in a moment. When we think about that, there's a lot of components to this, right? And I'll point out some other resources for you as we go along the way. But more importantly, what I want for you to understand is that when we think about your package, your compensation package for a full-time job after graduation, there are things to keep in mind other than the money, okay? So first and foremost, there are non-negotiable factors. These factors are basically, opportunities and factors in your compensation package that are predetermined by contractual agreement between the company that you're going to be working for and the provider. So for example, when it comes to insurance, medical, dental, and vision, right, are what we see most often in a compensation package. Oftentimes the medical, it depends on various things, more so in terms of how much you pay in versus how you pay out, the network coverage and things of that nature. As it goes along with dental, medical and dental are probably the two things to keep an eye out for. Vision insurance is an added bonus, an added feature. Sometimes vision is incorporated into your medical expenses or medical insurance, but sometimes it is pulled out as a separate insurance package. And so that's something you need to keep in mind. When it comes to retirement and your 401k, again, predetermined between the company and the provider, whether it be MetLife, Fidelity, or whatnot. The thing to keep in mind is how much are you paying into it, and also how much the company is matching. Okay, sometimes you may be paying in, I don't know, and I think about my own retirement. I'm chipping in 14%. The university is chipping in 8%. Okay, so sometimes there's a matching funds. Matching contribution to your retirement. Sometimes you pay more, and the university or the company doesn't pay that much, right? Something to keep in mind. The other part to this also is when it comes to access to your retirement funds. How do you need to be working at a specific company for an X period, X period of time, years or months, or are you immediately invested? Okay, something to keep in mind. When it comes to vacation, that is a company policy. It's not like, one person gets vacation time versus more so than the other person. That is determined, by the number of people in the company, and also how long you've been there. Okay. Sometimes there's a standard 2 week period of time that people can use for vacation, and it does not include federal holidays, or it could include federal holidays, or it could include other holidays that are not recognized by the government, like voting, right, or specific bank holidays, right? So when it comes to vacation, sometimes the thing to ask when it comes to your vacation is it a use it or lose it type of system, or can you accrue it? Okay. So as an example, when again, thinking of my experience, when I was working and I had vacation benefits, I had vacation time up to 50 days. And that was my ceiling, right? And so whatever was over the 50 days, I lost it. And so I had to use it or lose it, right? And that was one position I worked in long ago. Okay. But the question to ask when it comes to your vacation is, how is it accrued over a period of time? Can you bank it? And then more importantly, how do the number of hours or days of vacation increase as you lengthen your tenure at a company? Okay. The final thing to consider that is a non-negotiable is your sick time, right? Sick time is, again, accrued over a specific formula based on the number of months or years that you are working at said company. When it comes to sick leave, there are particular policies you do have to keep in mind. Like, for example, what does constitute sick time? Okay, so if you're, if it's just you, does sick time mean only you, or could it be someone that you care for, right? Or someone that's underneath your charge or your care, something to keep in mind. So these are the non-negotiable factors as it relates to your compensation package. Can't get more, shouldn't get less, but you can't negotiate the terms of these facets of your compensation package. Okay. When it comes to the other components of your salary and compensation, I'm gonna go about it in a different way, where instead of what to think about, I'm going to tell you, more importantly, the most common mistakes. Okay, so when we think about compensation packages, there's a lot of common mistakes, and the first one is a lack of the market. Okay, you may think salaries are at this level and that's it, right? Or they're not hiring as much. Well, what is that based on, right? So in order to understand how much you should get paid, you have to understand the market. When we think about the market, we think about two things: hiring trends and salary trends. Okay. And so the latest data that I'm going to present to you is actually, the first one is actually presented by the Department of Labor. Okay. And so when we think about hiring trends, this gives you an idea of how many engineers in these specific disciplines are going to be added to the current job market. Okay. So, if we think about the number of engineers employed, mechanical engineers employed in 2018, it was at 312,900. Okay. That's going to go up to 325,700 over the next 10 years. Okay. And then we think about that in the idea of numbers of engineers at a company. Okay. Or numbers of engineers within the market, right? What we see here is that based on the Department of Labor numbers, there's going to be a need for mechanical engineers over the next 7 years. Okay. We see that materials engineers are going to flatline a little bit, right? But oddly, there's going to be openings. And these openings are based on retirements or people leaving for other jobs. Okay. And so that's something to keep in mind. One of the things that you've heard me say over and over is the number of workers, numbers of engineers that are going to be retiring over the next few years. And the number I keep putting out, the year I keep putting out there is 2023. There will be a significant wave of retirements in the manufacturing industry. That's what that year is applicable to, is the numbers of engineers that are going to be retiring in 2023 in manufacturing. Okay. What we see here, and then we also see this as a result of the pandemic, jobs are shifting significantly, right? And so, having a sense of the market and having a sense of the demographic changes in hiring is really key. Let me step out of the PowerPoint and let me point out to you and bring up this website again. Again, this is the occupational dictionary. This is maintained by the Department of Labor, right? And I showed this to you a few weeks ago. The one thing I'm going to go to specifically as we scroll all the way down is, where is it? Employment trends. Okay. And so in this area, and for this field, particularly mechanical engineering, we see that average projected growth from 2019 to 2029 is an average of 3 to 4%. Okay. So, the job market is pretty good for a mechanical engineer, right? If we want to go specifically within the state of Ohio, okay, we notice that there's a 5% growth in projected annual job openings, not new, but openings, is 1,170. Okay, so having an understanding of that, of what's going to be out there, or who your competition is, or for what jobs, is key. All right. So the next thing, when we think about hiring trends, right, the other thing to consider are the salary trends, right? And before I go into that, when we think about hiring trends, when you come back from your co-op job, right? You're going to go to the career fair. When do employers recruit at the career fair is your number one question. So, oftentimes a lot of companies will say, don't visit us in the fall, visit us in the spring. It's worth visiting with companies in the fall, because that way you're starting to network, you're starting to ask questions, you're starting to put yourself out there and present the opportunity and the possibility for companies to potentially recruit you, okay, at the career fair. If not in the fall, then later on in the spring, right? So if you're thinking about bypassing the fall career fair, I would say it's time well worth it to spend time at the career fair, okay? And if it's particularly to connect with specific companies, please do so. At this point in time, I do not know if we will have a in-person career fair or a virtual career fair, in light of President Pinto's announcement yesterday that we will be opening 100% this over the summer, and then we will start in-person classes in the fall. That is a question that actually I will be posing to my leadership sometime in the next couple of weeks. So more news on that later on when it comes to the career fair. But let's focus on your co-op jobs. If you when you go back to your co-op employer, before you leave to come back for your graduation year, ask HR, what is the job forecast in the next fiscal year? So if you are planning or would like to be considered for a full-time job with your current co-op employer after you graduate, before you come back to classes in August, ask the question, what are the possibilities of a full-time job after graduation, right? And that is based on anticipating anticipated customer contracts, or expansion into new markets, or acquiring new businesses or new companies, right? And so these, the large contracts, the acquisition or expansion of business does present opportunities potentially for you, or a job role for you, okay? When we think about ranges and salaries, okay, we now go into the salary trends now when we think about the market, right? This is information pulled from the National Association of Colleges and Employers. This is based on graduating seniors taking jobs after graduation in winter 2020. Okay. As you can see, somewhere in the middle here, whoops. As you can see, mechanical engineers, the average is about 69,000, and the middle 50 is between 65,000 and 72,000 a year. Okay, and that is for graduating seniors, right? As you notice, the high jobs, and when we think about the middle 50%, is computer engineering and software engineering. Systems engineering at 75,000. Okay, that is something to keep in mind, right? Overall, I think when you look at the salary ranges, okay, I am going to put out there that this is based on national trends. It does not factor in co-op. Okay, so I'm going to put out there for you that when we think about co-op and the numbers of months of work experience that you have, your salary should be anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 more than the average. Okay, or more than the middle 50%. Okay, let me say again, co-op enhances your salary by about between $3,000 and $5,000 annually when it comes to the middle 50%, right? So, it could be anywhere from $68,000 to $75,000 per year, okay, for a mechanical engineer. Now, the other thing to keep in mind when you consider these salaries is region and industry. Okay, so I will say that when it comes to region, the Midwest is a booming region because of the manufacturing supply chain from Alabama to Michigan, and then the move of goods and services from Pennsylvania to California. Okay, and that's because of when you look at the infrastructure of the U.S. highways, we are close to major byways. Okay, with that said, manufacturing in the Midwest is a really key industry for engineers in this area, right? When we think about the idea of civil engineers are actually hot out west. Okay, aerospace engineers, systems engineers, it really depends, right? And so those are things to keep in mind, right? The other thing I want to draw your attention to is two other websites, okay? Where'd it go? Here we go. When we think about wages, this is again from ONET, 79,520 is the average, and this is all jobs regardless of experience. Okay, so when we think about experience and knowledge and everything like that, if you're well experienced into a mechanical engineering role, the most you'll make is 120,230. Okay, the lowest is 53,000 in Ohio. Okay, and I mentioned industry and location. 53,000 in Ohio is really small company, mom and pop testing facility. Okay, I could think of one actually out in Fairfield, where one of our alumni is getting paid 55,000. Okay, again, it's not all about the money, right? It could be that you enjoy working in a small company where you're valued as an engineer. Okay, it could be that you love the work environment and the work that the company does. Okay, that's the main thing to keep in mind here. So again, it's not all about the money, right? That example I told you about the student who accepted for 55,000, he stayed in the area namely because his wife was a nursing student, and he was graduating a year ahead of her, and he had to be flexible in what she was doing because she had more opportunity for jobs than he did, right? And she actually had a job. This one particular student actually ended up leaving his engineering company, and they went back to their hometown in northern Ohio because she got a job at a hospital. Okay. And he went back to work for a company that he worked at in high school. Right. So some things to keep in mind. The other website, and I'll post this in the chat, is salary.com, right? And this incorporates a number of factors, as you can see here. And all you need to do is input your into salary requirements, and boom, it'll give you a potential salary, right? So that's understanding the salary of the market gives you a sense of what you're worth and what the value of your education is worth. Okay. The next common mistake is timing. When we think about the timing of when you're negotiating, people aren't good at it. And I'll be honest, no one is, right? When it comes to the timing, you should negotiate your salary after you've interviewed and received the job offer. Okay. Don't negotiate before you receive the job offer. Negotiate after you receive the job offer. Okay. If possible, avoid the conversation about salary, like I said, until you receive the job offer. When it comes to a number, like sometimes a company will say, what's a number? What's a good number, right? In some states, it is legal for the employer to ask your present salary, okay? But it's your option to provide it. You could give a round number, right? But saying that you make $78,295 as an exact number isn't really necessary, right? That's not my salary, by the way. I just created a random number, but be prepared to answer it, and without giving a direct answer, right? If you want to think about the range, go back to that number in the previous slide when it comes to salary trends. Refer to this chart when it comes to a number, okay? Oftentimes, you may see in a job posting, the salary number is already specified, okay? One tip is if you see it on, say, the company job site, and it's posted, and the same job is posted on LinkedIn, sometimes LinkedIn has a salary range, okay? Sometimes it doesn't. Or you go to Indeed and it's posted there, right? So, that's another way of digging at what the salary range should be, or what the number should be, okay? So again, when it comes to the timing of it all, don't negotiate your salary until after you've interviewed and received the job offer, okay? Because now time is now on your side, right? The other piece is lack of research, okay? I talked about this. I talked about the timing. I talked about the dollar figure, right? And also the number of the opportunity, right? But bigger picture, there's other factors to keep in mind here. One is when you think about your salary, what is honestly the cost of living, right? Or the what I call the Starbucks factor. When you think about a common drink you buy at Starbucks, for me, it's a venti latte, right? How much does it cost here in Cincinnati versus San Francisco versus Las Vegas? The number is different every single time. Okay. So the key here is that your salary should be based on numbers, not emotion. Okay. The other piece of this is that you have to do your homework, right? And so when we think about a salary and in the Cincinnati area, how much does it cost elsewhere, right? And so again, we direct you to NerdWallet, okay? And NerdWallet is one of a variety of websites that actually calculates the cost of living in different metropolitan areas. So let's say, for example, again, you're living in Cincinnati and you want to live in, I don't know, Nashville. And you're making $68,500, right? Cost of living in Nashville is pretty much the same, close to it, right? Housing is a little higher, food is a little higher, but transportation, entertainment, and healthcare is a lot lower, okay? So when we think about these factors, right? It's a give or take, right? So let's think about another location. A popular spot is Chicago. And your current salary, let's say, is 72. You would have to make 93,470 in Chicago. Okay, it's namely because of all this: housing, transportation, food, and entertainment. Okay. Another location, Atlanta. A lot of engineers end up in Atlanta. Slightly higher. The cost of living is slightly higher. So the point here is the number that you see in Ohio, it doesn't translate to other parts of the country because of the cost of living. When we think about housing, transportation, food, entertainment, and healthcare. Okay. So those are some things to keep in mind. As we went through what I just did in the exercise here, Nashville is probably the closest place that when it comes to salary, it's pretty comparable. I think another one is, let me double check, Charlotte, North Carolina, slightly higher. Okay. And so do your homework. Check, if you're being told that you're going to, say, San Francisco, how much should you be making in San Francisco to afford these factors when it comes to living, right? So that's one thing to keep in mind. Questions? Okay. And again, I will post this in Canvas for your reference, right? So bigger picture, I want you to think this. Fill in the blank here. During my blank months of full-time work on co-op, I accomplished blank using what skills? This benefited the company by insert results. Okay. If it's say for example, during my 6 months of full-time work at X company, I accomplished managing 10 different projects and a manufacturing line overhaul using my project management skills. This benefited the company by $500,000. That's actually from a student that worked at an aerospace company. Okay. Think about this articulating your value piece as how to put it out there that you're valuable and you should be paid more. Okay. When you think about how you are about that number, when you think about that salary number, you need to back it up. Okay. And it could be that during, it may not be a financial benefit to a company, but could it be another benefit? Articulate that value. Okay. When we think about factors to ask, so as you're negotiating, it's not all about the money, right? So here are questions to ask as you go through the negotiation process. One, a few weeks ago, we talked about licensure and credentialing and things of that nature. Does the company offer professional development reimbursement for licensures, for certifications, for getting a master's degree? Okay. As an example, one of my dear friends went through the MBA program with me, and she worked for Procter & Gamble. She was given tuition reimbursement going through the MBA program. She had to maintain at minimum 3.0 GPA, and she could only take 2 classes at a time. And she was reimbursed after the fact, right? After she had taken the classes. And that was important for her. Some companies may say they'll reimburse you, but you still have to continue working. You may be obligated to work for the company X number of years. Okay. Another person in my MBA program was paid full 100%, was paid to go through the MBA program, and he had to put in 3 more years after he got his degree. Okay. So that's if furthering your education and your professional development is important, you know, that's something to consider. The other piece to it too is, if I mentioned the professional development. Are there conferences you should go to? Should you continue going to ASME? Should you start going to ASPE? All of those professional development opportunities for engineers. Or if you are in the community and you're going through a professional development program within a community agency, will your company pay for it? If the company is vested in the community or is connected to that nonprofit organization, they may sponsor you or may pay for your professional development. It's worth asking. Okay. If you're not paid overtime, can you do flex time? So, like for example, if you're working extra hours at work, can you bank those hours and use it as a day off and not take the day off against your vacation time? It's a question to ask. With COVID and a lot of the work from home policies that are out there, are there actually opportunities to work at home? Okay, and coordinate operations from home. Okay, with that said, what kind of technology are they going to provide you? Of course, nowadays a laptop or a computer, right? But is there anything more than that? Are there uniforms? If you're going out in the field and you're doing field testing, are they going to pay for your equipment to obtain the field tests? Are you going to be given PPE or a budget for PPE? Are you going to be given a uniform? If you're going to get a uniform, how many pieces of the uniform are you going to get for free, and how much of it is subsidized after that allotment? These are questions to ask. Okay. And the final thing are pay raises and promotions. So once you get the salary and once you identify this is your pay rate for the year, you could then ask, so what's the schedule for pay raises? What's the schedule for promotion? That way, ahead of time, when you think about your trajectory at a company, if you spend 3 years, what is your earning potential within 3 years? Or what is your potential professionally as it relates to not only your education, but also the role and the responsibility and the management, if you are considering management as a role after graduation? What are those opportunities for you? Have that spelled out for you so that way you could get a sense of how much time you're going to invest and how much you're going to get in return, right? Ask yourself these questions. When you, at the end of the day, when you have the salary, the compensation package, you have all those questions answered, you've had a clear understanding of the insurance, the retirement, everything. Ask yourself these questions. Is this company a right fit for me? Okay. Oftentimes we make a decision on a company based on fit. Is the company right for you? Is the company an opportunity, a place where you can learn and grow? Does the company offer you the opportunity to enhance your training? Intellectually and professionally, does it stimulate you? Can you make a difference with the company? So, like for example, if you're going through a training process and you're going to be a manager in waiting and you're waiting for the older senior manager to retire, okay? Are you okay waiting a few years, or are you going into a situation where you're going to be a senior level? Are you going to be moving into a role as a senior level manager in X number of years? Can you see that you're going to make a difference right away, or are you going to wait? Okay. When you think about the culture, one of the things that you think about as you're going through an interview process, you may be meeting with HR once, and then you may be meeting with the hiring manager, and then maybe 2 or 3 other managers. As you look around you, as you look at the people that you're meeting with, do you see a fit? Can you align your personality, your values, all that you are as an engineer professionally? Do you see a fit with working with the supervisor or the manager or the team that you're talking to, right? Final question. Do you see a career path in this company? Do you see this as a jumping stone, or do you see this as a way station? Do you see this as the company that you're going to spend the rest of your career? Okay. So these are questions to ask yourself after you've gotten all your questions answered regarding your compensation package, right? At the end of the day, when we look at your salary, we look at where you're going to be working, who you're going to be working with, and all the other benefits, that are presented in front of you. When we think about salary negotiation, it's a conversation, not a battle. Okay, this is not a fight, and it's not something where there's victory, right? You've already got the victory. They picked you, right? You're the one being hired. Okay, so they want to make this work for you, and you should do the same. At the end of the day, don't make it personal. Don't take the comments or the way things are answered to you as with some emotional attachment. Okay, it's just it's seeking of facts. Okay, remain positive, remain flexible, and don't worry about compromising. At some point, you're going to have to compromise, right? But always focus on the facts and focus on what the objective is going to be for you at the end. Again, go back to the other questions. Ask yourself at the end of the day. Again, ask yourself these questions. Okay. Finally, the other thing is take notes. When we starting from the research process of understanding, the job trends, the hiring trends, salaries, the middle 25% and the middle 50% for mechanical engineers, take these notes for yourself, because you're good as you talk and go through the process, you may forget a point or two. Okay. Think about, if a company has locations in Santa Fe Springs, Cleveland, Wichita, and Utica, what is the cost of living in those locations? And if they offer you a full-time job in any of those locations, you're not fumbling around trying to figure it out. You have those numbers in front of you. Okay. Do your homework, do your research. All right. Questions? Hearing none and seeing none in the chat. Again, make sure you've taken a look at the videos, the recorded videos for the financial planning session, and also the senior capstone design lecture with Dr. Tom Houston. If there's questions from those, let me know. When we think about the final assignment that's due next week, I believe, I still have not seen or heard from folks who are collaborating with peers. Okay, if you are looking to work with another individual, not only in this class but the other class, the Tuesday 12:30 section, let me know. And then when you submit, you are submitting to me via email, and carbon copy your team members. No more than 3 per team if you are collaborating with someone. When I'm asking for the project, it's your most recent co-op. Okay. If you did the upskilling EEP, go to the previous co-op as for the focus of your project. Other than that, next week will be will be our last class session. I'll have some parting thoughts, ideas for us, and then go from there. So I'll stick around if there's any other questions, but thank you all for joining me this afternoon, and we'll see you later.